All right, welcome back to another episode of Podcast for Artists. Getting your artwork into a gallery, that's like the holy grail for so many artists, right? It's almost like this mystical thing.
Yeah, there's a certain allure to it, definitely. A sense of validation for sure.
Yeah, but like how does it actually work? Like what's the reality of working with a gallery? That's what we're gonna dig into today. We're gonna explore those benefits, like the visibility and the connections you can get, but also the challenges and what to watch out for.
Right. Because it's not always a fairy tale. There are those practical considerations, the financial side of things, the kind of relationship you build with the gallery. It's a partnership, really.
So, like, this whole idea of getting into a gallery, it feels kind of mysterious, like there's some secret formula, but really it starts with the basics, right? You got to have a strong body of work.
Absolutely. A consistent body of work that represents your style, your
Yeah.
vision as an artist. That's the foundation.
So you've been creating, you've got a good collection of pieces. What's next?
Well, then it's about, being strategic. Doing your research. Figure out which galleries actually align with what you do. Look at the artists they represent, the kind of art they exhibit. It's not just about any gallery, it's about finding the right fit.
Okay, so you've got your amazing artwork, you've done your research, and you've found some galleries that seem like they could be a good match. Now what?
Now it's all about presentation. Think of it like applying for a job. You need a killer resume, right? In this case, it's your portfolio. And you need a professional online presence, a website that showcases your work in the best light possible.
So your portfolio and website are like your introduction, and then like the networking part comes in, right?
Exactly. Get out there, attend gallery openings, meet other artists, connect with curators. Building those relationships, those personal connections can be really valuable.
It's all about putting yourself and your work out there. So you've done all that, you've made some connections. When do you approach a gallery with a proposal?
Yeah, when you feel confident in your work and you've identified a gallery that feels like a good fit, then it's time to put together that proposal.
Hmm.
Your artist statement, bio, maybe a selection of images that represent your best work. You want to articulate your vision, your process, and why you think you'd be a good fit for that specific gallery.
Okay, and like with any job application, don't forget to follow up, right?
Absolutely. It shows you're serious and professional.
Yeah.
Be persistent, but also be respectful of their time.
So let's say you get that dream email, we'd love to represent you. What then? What's the day-to-day reality of working with a gallery?
Well, it's a partnership, as we said,
Hmm.
but it's important to remember that galleries have their own limitations. They have their existing roster of artists. They have exhibitions planned out sometimes months in advance.
Right. So even if they love your work, they might not have the space or the bandwidth to take on another artist right away.
Exactly. And sometimes, they just might not be the right fit for whatever reason. So it's important not to take rejection personally.
Mm.
Like one gallery owner, Evan Griffith, he said something interesting. He said that often, they have to turn down artists, even really talented ones, just because of practical limitations.
So a no doesn't necessarily mean your work isn't good. It just might not be the right time or the right place. Okay, so let's get down to brass tacks, the money part. What kind of financial expectations should an artist realistically have when working with a gallery?
Well, it really depends. There's no like one size fits all answer. It varies so much depending on the gallery, the location, the market, your style as an artist, the pricing of your work. There are so many factors at play.
Yeah, but like for a newer artist, someone just starting out, what's a reasonable range, say, in terms of sales per month?
Well, I mean, 1 to 3 pieces a month is kind of a common benchmark. But again, that can fluctuate wildly. It could be more, it could be less.
And I imagine the location of the gallery makes a big difference too, right? Like a gallery in a big city versus a smaller town.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
A gallery in a bustling art district might see a higher volume of sales just because of foot traffic and a larger pool of potential buyers. But those smaller regional galleries, they might have more personalized relationships with their collectors, which can also be really valuable.
So let's say you've got a piece priced at $1,500 and you sell two pieces in a month. That's $3,000 gross. Now, factor in the gallery commission, which is typically around 50%, and you're left with $1,500 before you even consider the cost of materials and framing and all that.
Right, and that's why it's so important to price your works strategically from the beginning, taking into account all those expenses.
Yeah, and it's not just about the immediate sales, right? It's about the bigger picture.
Exactly. You want a gallery that's actively promoting your work, getting you in exhibitions, introducing you to collectors. It's about building a long-term relationship, building momentum for your career.
So those early gallery partnerships, they're as much about career development as immediate financial gain.
Definitely. Think of it as an investment in your future.
Okay, let's dive a little deeper into the financial side. Commissions. We mentioned 50% being pretty standard. That's a big chunk.
If you can feel that way, yeah. But remember, that commission covers a lot. It covers the gallery's operating costs, their marketing efforts, the exhibitors they put on. They're handling the sales, the shipping, sometimes even the framing and installation.
It's basically like they're providing a whole infrastructure that you as an individual artist wouldn't have to build yourself.
Right. They have that established network, that expertise in selling art.
So transparency about all this is key.
Absolutely. You should feel comfortable asking about the gallery's commission rates, their discount policies, even their financial expectations for their artists.
Hmm.
Open communication is so important.
And when you're pricing your work, you got to factor that commission in.
Yeah, some artists even work backward, figuring out what they want to earn after the commission and then setting the retail price accordingly. It's just a way to make sure you're covering your costs and hitting your financial goals.
Smart. And what about discounts? Galleries often offer discounts to collectors to close a sale. How does that usually work?
Yeah, discounts are pretty common, often around 10%.
Mm.
The key is to be clear with the gallery about their policy. Are you consulted before they offer a discount? Is the discount split between you and the gallery? Those kinds of things.
Yeah, because that can impact your bottom line. Now, we've talked about commissions, but I've also heard about galleries that actually charge artists fees to exhibit their work. Can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, so there are these, sometimes they're called vanity galleries or pay-to-play galleries. Their main source of income is from these fees that artists pay to be in a show.
So their financial incentive isn't necessarily aligned with actually selling the artwork.
Right, so you got to be cautious with those. If a gallery is asking you for a fee, you really need to scrutinize what you're getting in return. What kind of marketing are they doing? What kind of support are they providing?
Yeah, because ultimately you want a gallery that's motivated to sell your work, not just collect fees.
Exactly. Now, there are also these cooperative galleries or hybrid models where a group of artists kind of runs the gallery together. And those can be a really good option, especially for emerging artists, because they often have lower fees and commissions, and you get more say in how the gallery operates.
It's more of a community-based approach.
Right.
So let's talk about getting paid. What are the typical payment timelines, and what kind of transparency should an artist expect?
Okay, so standard practice is that you should get paid within 30 days of a sale.
Okay, that seems reasonable.
Yeah. And you should also expect detailed sales reports.
Yeah.
What sold, for how much, maybe some information about the buyer, if that's possible and appropriate.
Transparency is so crucial here. You're trusting this gallery with your livelihood, essentially.
Right, and a good gallery will be proactive about communication. They'll send you those reports, keep you in the loop about sales, and be open to answering your questions.
If they're hesitant about that, that's a red flag.
Yeah, definitely. And it's also really important to have everything in writing.
A contract.
Yeah, a contract that clearly spells out the payment terms, the commission structure, everything. It protects both you and the gallery.
Absolutely. Don't rely on verbal agreements or handshake deals. Get it in writing.
Exactly.
Okay, let's move on to another big topic, exclusivity. What are the pros and cons of signing an exclusivity agreement with a gallery?
Well, exclusivity can be beneficial for both sides. For the gallery, it means they're the only ones selling your work, so they can really focus their efforts on promoting you. And for you, as the artist, it can mean more dedicated attention and potentially more sales.
But there's a flip side, right?
Yeah, the downside is that it can limit your options. If you're exclusive with one gallery, you can't show your work with any others in that agreed-upon area. So if the gallery isn't performing well, or if they're not actively promoting your work, you can get stuck.
So it's really a gamble, in a way.
It can be. That's why it's so important to really understand the terms of the agreement. What exactly is the geographic scope? How long does the exclusivity last? What types of work does it cover?
Ask all the questions. Don't be afraid to negotiate.
Exactly. You want to make sure it's a mutually beneficial arrangement.
And beyond the legal stuff, the day-to-day communication with the gallery, that's got to be important.
Oh, communication is essential. You want a gallery that keeps you informed about sales, about exhibitions, about any promotional efforts they're making.
You don't want to be left in the dark.
Right. So when you're talking to galleries, ask about their communication practices. How often do they send reports? Who's your point of contact? That kind of thing.
Set those expectations early on.
Yeah. A good gallery will understand that communication is key to a healthy relationship.
Now, what about access to collectors? I mean, galleries often keep that information pretty close to the vest, right?
They do, and for good reason. They've built those relationships. But you should still be able to have some understanding of who's buying your work.
Yeah.
Maybe some general demographic information or trends in buying patterns.
That can help you understand your audience better.
Yeah, and it's worth talking to the gallery about the possibility of artist-collector introductions, in the right circumstances.
Some collectors would really value that, I'm sure.
Definitely. It can help build those personal connections and foster loyalty.
Okay, so you're represented by a gallery, things are going well, your work is selling. Is there a pressure to just keep doing the same thing, to keep producing what's popular?
That's a real concern. It's easy to get stuck in a rut, especially when you find something that sells. But as an artist, you need to keep evolving, keep pushing your boundaries.
You don't want to feel like you're creatively stifled.
Right. So it's important to have those conversations with your gallery about your artistic goals, where you see your work going.
A good gallery will support your growth, not try to pigeonhole you.
Exactly. They'll help you navigate those changes,
Yeah.
communicate those new directions to your audience.
It's a partnership, it's a journey.
Definitely.
Now, how can an artist make sure that they're getting enough attention from the gallery? Sometimes a gallery represents a lot of artists.
That's true. And sometimes certain artists get more attention than others.
Right. So what can you do to make sure you're not being overlooked?
Well, when you're talking to galleries, ask them about their roster. How many artists do they represent? How do they balance their promotional efforts?
So, like, how often do they rotate exhibitions? Do they offer solo shows?
Yeah, those are all good questions. And ask about their marketing strategy. How are they promoting their artists online? Do they do any PR or press outreach?
You want a gallery that's actively working to get your work seen.
Exactly.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here.
Yeah.
What would you say is the single most important piece of advice for an artist considering a gallery partnership?
Get everything in writing. A contract.
That seems to be a recurring theme here.
It is, because it's so important. A contract protects everyone involved.
Mhm.
It clearly outlines the terms of the agreement, the commission structure, the payment schedule, everything.
No handshake deals.
Right.
And if you're not sure about something in the contract, get legal advice.
Absolutely.
Finally, I think it's important to talk about values. In today's world, artists want to work with galleries that align with their values.
Yeah, that's becoming increasingly important.
It's not just about getting your work on the wall, it's about feeling like you're part of a community that
Yeah.
supports your vision and your values.
Exactly. So look for galleries that demonstrate a commitment to diversity and inclusion, not just in their words, but in their actions.
Look at their roster, look at their past exhibitions, ask them about their curatorial process.
Yeah, get a sense of their overall mission and values.
You want to feel like you're a good fit, not just artistically, but also philosophically.
Absolutely.
And one last thing, this whole process of finding a gallery, it can be pretty demanding. Any final words of wisdom for artists going through this?
Yeah, take care of yourself. Don't burn yourself out. Set boundaries. Be realistic about your capacity. This should be an exciting time, not a completely draining one.
To protect your energy, protect your creativity.
Exactly.
So it sounds like finding the right gallery is it's like finding the right partner. It's about communication, it's about shared values, it's about mutual respect.
It is. It's a relationship that needs to be nurtured.
And if you do your research, if you ask the right questions, if you trust your gut, you can find a gallery that's a true champion for your work.
Absolutely. You deserve that as an artist.
Well, I think that's a great place to leave it. As always, thanks for tuning in to Podcast for Artists. And remember, keep creating, keep pushing your boundaries, and keep believing in the power of your art.
And don't be afraid to reach out and ask for help along the way.
Absolutely. There's a whole community out there supporting you.
That's right.
All right, until next time, keep those brushes moving and those imaginations flowing. We'll see you soon.
See you next time.